Quentin Tarantino. Think you know the man behind the coolest dialogue and the bloodiest showdowns? Think again. After 3 decades of redefining modern cinema, Quentin Tarantino has quietly kept a blacklist 5 famous names he once admired, hired, or considered, and then swore off for good. Some were old friends. Some were idols. All of them, in his eyes, crossed a line. Why? That's the story tonight. And once you hear it, you might watch his movies with completely different eyes. Now, grab your seat. Let's open the vault. The legend of Tarantino isn't just about style, it's about control. He writes like a composer, he directs like a watchmaker, and he expects actors to plug into that rhythm flawlessly. When they do, you get lightning in a bottle. When they don't, well, names get erased. And the first one will surprise you. George Clooney. Back in the mid-90s, a crime-soaked, vampire-splattered caper brought a rising indie icon and TV's slickest charmer onto the same project. On paper, it should have been chaos in the best way. But Tarantino's sets thrive on raw edges, nerves, danger, the feeling that the scene could explode at any second. Clooney? He's calm under fire, polished to a shine, the guy who makes trouble look easy. That steady, controlled energy grated on Tarantino's taste for volatility. Whispers from the crew said the temperature kept dropping, little eye rolls at line readings, subtle pushback on tone. Eventually, the oil and water vibe went public. Barbs flew, interviews got spicy, and that was that. No grand feud scene. Just 2 powerhouses walking away, never to meet on the same call sheet again. Bruce Willis. You've watched Bruce Willis carve a path through Pulp Fiction as Butch, a performance heavy with bruised dignity and sudden violence. But the alchemy was rough going behind the camera. Willis was already a brand fast-talking, hard-charging, a star used to steering the ship. Tarantino was the obsessive, the captain of a very different vessel. The script is the law. Cadence is sacred. Every sentence has a beat you cannot bend. Sparks flew. Notes were challenged. Line readings were debated. Takes were scrapped. Great art came out of it, yes, but the cost was high. When awards rolled in, and the movie burned itself into pop culture, fans assumed the reunion would be automatic. It never came. Not because the work wasn't good, but because the battle to make it good left a scar. Tarantino kept calling back Travolta, Jackson, Thurman, not Willis. In his universe, harmony matters as much as talent. Will Smith. Next up, a crossroads that could have changed careers. Tarantino wanted Will Smith for the title role in Django Unchained. It was bold, seismic, an enslaved man turned avenger, blazing a trail of justice in a world built on cruelty. They met, they talked, and they disagreed about the soul of the story. Smith leaned toward love as the guiding light. Tarantino insisted on vengeance as catharsis. Neither man was wrong. They were simply making different films in their heads. The meeting ended. Jamie Foxx stepped in and delivered an Oscar night juggernaut. Still, the near miss left an echo. Tarantino, protective of his tone, moved on. Smith, cautious about moral framing, did the same. No fireworks, no meltdown, just a creative door quietly closing. Sometimes, the loudest feud is the one that never even starts. Kevin Costner. For decades, Kevin Costner has stood for a certain classic American heroism, steadfast, clean-cut, morally upright. Tarantino's world, meanwhile, lives in gray zones. Rotten saints, elegant sinners, redemption paid in blood. The clash wasn't personal so much as philosophical. Costner's on-screen code felt, to Tarantino, like a Sunday-best version of humanity too tidy for his messy universe. And when Costner publicly critiqued directors who glorify moral chaos back in the day, Tarantino took it as a shot across his bow. He joked more than once that, if Costner ever showed up in one of his movies, he'd have to kill him off early just to keep things interesting. Laughs in the room? Sure. But the sentiment stuck. Costner never tested those waters, and Tarantino never offered them. 2 different Americas, nodding at each other from opposite sides of the canyon. Edward Norton. Finally, the perfectionist's paradox. Edward Norton. Sharp as a scalpel, meticulous, known for wrestling scripts into immaculate shape. In most rooms, that's a gift. In Tarantino's, where the blueprint is final and the music is already written, it's sacrilege. Early conversations around a role in Inglourious Basterds reportedly turned into line-by-line audits, tighten here, restructure there. Helpful? Maybe. Welcome? Not in this house. Meetings cooled. Calls stopped. The role pivoted to Christoph Waltz, who walked away with an Oscar and a place in Tarantino lore. Norton, no less brilliant, simply plays better on sets where the clay is meant to be reshaped. Tarantino demands a different covenant. Trust the melody, hit the rhythm, don't rewrite the song. So, what ties these stories together? Ego? Partly. But it's bigger than that. Tarantino's cinema lives or dies on tone. He builds pressure cookers where language is a weapon, and silence counts as much as gunfire. If a star arrives, carrying a different gravitational field, too smooth, too controlling, too editorial, his delicate ecosystem shudders. When the flow breaks, he doesn't bend it, he cuts the cord. And yet, that stubbornness is also the secret sauce. It's why his films feel like they were dreamed by one mind, and one mind only. The music of the dialogue, the violent ballet, the sudden black comedy, none of it works if the conductor loses the baton. From that vantage point, every name on this unofficial blacklist makes sense. It's not that these actors aren't extraordinary. They are. It's that extraordinary in one universe becomes disruptive in another. Now, flip the coin. Could Tarantino have unlocked whole new shades, with Clooney's cool, Willis's grit, Smith's charisma, Costner's gravitas, Norton's precision, if he'd allowed more give and take? Maybe. But the man's legacy suggests that compromise isn't his brand. He'd rather be ruthlessly specific than generously average. And audiences, like it or not, keep showing up for that purity. Here's the real question for you. Is protecting a singular vision worth losing A-list partnerships? Or does the very act of protection create the lightning we pay to see? When a filmmaker's voice is that loud and that clear, maybe the cost is inevitable. Some bridges never get built. Some phone numbers never get dialed. And the movies, love them or hate them, remain unmistakably his. So there it is. 5 names, 5 fault lines, 1 director who refuses to share the steering wheel, George Clooney, too smooth for the storm, Bruce Willis, a saved performance with a price, Will Smith, a philosophical split on love versus vengeance, Kevin Costner, the clean-cut myth colliding with moral mud, Edward Norton, 2 perfectionists, 1 script, 0 compromise. Was Quentin Tarantino right to guard his vision like a dragon hoarding gold? Or did that stubborn edge cost us collaborations we'll always wonder about? Tell me whose side you're on and why. If this deep dive flipped your perspective or gave you ammo for your next movie night debate, drop a like, share it with a film buff friend, and hit subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. And hey, if you've got a dream pairing you wish Tarantino had tried, name it in the comments. Let's cast the movie that never was.